Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Jack Blaeser. He's the founder and CEO of Mosaic. Thank you very much for joining me today, Jack.
David, thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube and all the other podcast directory platforms, whatever your pleasure. Jack, thank you again for joining me. I always like to start the podcast learning a little bit about your own personal journey to the industry. So what was it that got you first involved in the cannabis industry?
Sure. For the last 20 plus years, I've been raising capital, using technology to disrupt or enhance different industries. And I made my first investment in the cannabis space just short of 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. And it's fascinating. So made the investment because it was a big market that was at the time looking very likely it was going to go federally legal. We know that quite hasn't happened as fast as people expected, but nonetheless fascinating because it's a big market. It's It's 100 billion if you include illicit in the U.S., reaching about 40 billion legal. At the time, I think it was about 25 billion in legal sales, but it was kind of an unknown product. It's a product that's been out there forever, but in terms of becoming a state level legal product, it was new to a lot of people, and it was really unknown, and not much research has been done on either. But as I kind of dove into it more and more, I started to realize it really had a lot of potential good impacts or effects on people from a medical perspective, from maybe replacing alcohol as well, and from a business perspective, where I came from. The background of taking technology and disrupting businesses, I saw a clear opportunity. The problem is you have this industry, big industry, relatively new to the legal side, didn't have a lot of good technology tools. So these dispensaries were really having their hands behind their back, starting with, the competition against the illicit space, starting with the 280E tax provisions, paying an effective tax rate of 70%. But also not having tools and having a very fragmented set of tools around what I knew, which was digital commerce. So I saw an opportunity to help those retailers, those operators in the cannabis space to have better technology, and so started Mosaic just over three years ago, and building a platform and giving the dispensaries tools that you are used to in other industries. So I always use the analogy of Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, but when you go to buy your coffee, you have the option of downloading a beautiful app or going to their website, or going in the store, browsing the product, putting it in checking out, getting points, getting rewarded for your activities, and making payment really easy throughout that. And that is a tool that really Starbucks has leveraged to become an industry icon. So if you go to any of their earnings calls, they always talk about it. And they literally have spent hundreds of millions of dollars building that platform and scaling it. So dispensaries don't have tools like that. They have these very fragmented e-commerce, or another provider provides loyalty, or another provider might provide an app, still yet another one that might do email platform. So to bring that together and give dispensaries their own platform was the opportunity that I saw, and what really got me involved in starting Mosaic.
What was that first investment 10 years ago?
The first investment was in a company now known as Acreage Holdings, but I invested in it before it went public. So in a very early stage, my brother-in-law introduced me to them, and so made that investment early and got to see that company and the whole industry kind of shift. And as we all know, it was started to spike up pretty aggressively, and then things didn't move as quickly as wanted and hit a lot of tailwinds. So I think we're at a point now where it's tough for a lot of operators, but I hope our technology and our platforms can help them succeed. But I think we have an opportunity to move forward and upward as an industry, which is exciting, still challenging.
So how does the platform work for the cannabis industry? I mean, can you take payments directly through the app?
You can. Today, we and others currently accept payments through what's called ACH, but it's Venmo-like. it's with your bank account. So being able to enter your bank information, you can make payments online, and the money gets transferred from your bank account to the dispensary. So today, Mosaic offers that as a solution. But David, we're about ready to actually announce in November a new payment solution that's going to be a breakthrough for the industry and give users and dispensaries more options, options that they're used to in other industries. So excited to make that announcement here soon. And really, I think that's going to help normalize the experience for users and make it a lot easier for dispensaries to move more of their purchases to payments online versus cash and using your bank account.
So credit card?
It is going to be is going to enable credit card, correct?
Ooh, all right.
Yeah,
That is a
cool.
big announcement, man.
Yeah, first time I mentioned it, so you're kind of getting that preview, but it's
Well,
coming soon, so I'm happy to share that with you.
that's incredible. Is that, are you looking for a large launch about that news around MJ BizCon?
We are not. We've been pretty stealth as a company in terms of everything we built and our go-to-market strategy. We actually haven't hired sales yet today. Haven't done much marketing, but we get quite a bit word of mouth, and our partners provide referrals to us. And then we'll do demos, and most of the dispensaries that take a look at what we do sign up. And so we'll continue that. I think at the beginning, stay a little bit stealth. We'd like to get the product right. We want to make sure it works. We feel that this is an industry where there's been a lot of different technologies that have been hard on users in the past. And, my experience before is kind of product led. Get the product right, make sure it works, make sure it's great. So that's where we are. And we put up most of our money and investment into the product, and we will continue to do that. So I don't think we're going to make a big splash, although I've considered that, at the event, but we'll see.
Well, is it easier to develop a product like this in stealth and slowly roll it out so that way you can listen to the feedback of the few rather than, coming from every direction?
Yeah, so the challenge is having capital to do that, right? But
Yeah.
the ability to do it in that way and get it right does have its advantages because you can really make sure you're listening to customers, you're making those improvements versus finding yourself in a situation, which I've been in many times, where you're just growing very fast and all of your time and energy is going towards trying to put out the fires versus getting everything right and improving what you have. And from my experience, customers are the best advisors. They give you great input. They're in the trenches, they're working hard. Their feedback is invaluable. So to have the time to make sure you get it right for them and you can give them the time they need. We give our customers white glove treatment, and we want to continue to do that. So yeah, we think our growth will come, and we're at the point where we think it's going to really accelerate with not just this announcement, but with what we already have in place and what our customers already are able to leverage. And we're showing our customers getting really nice returns on growth returns. I mean, we'll guarantee 25% online sales growth, for example, when you
Really?
move your platform to Mosaic. Yeah,
How can you guarantee that?
just from most of our customers that jump on our platform, see some significant success and much more growth than that. So we'll put was it our mouth where I was just saying
Money where our mouth is?
money where our mouth is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
money where our mouth is. And in almost all cases, many cases, I think if you use our platform effectively, you certainly will see 25% or maybe double or triple the growth of your online sales business. So we'll guarantee that for sure.
Well, that's, that is incredibly aggressive. And I mean, that sounds like a hard deal to pass up. One thing in the industry has been people signing on for new tools and technology, and then, the company kind of running out of road. So how can you provide these guarantees and these promises for ROI, but also, help them feel confident that you're going to still be there, a couple months down the road?
Well, first, our track record with our customers, we see significant growth from most of our customers. We also try to help wherever we can in extra ways, but just a platform, if it's used effectively, in most cases, can drive 100, 200, 300% growth of their online sales. So because of that, the percentage of customers that do have that success, we're willing to guarantee that for them. In terms of will we be here, I'm not going to say who yet, but we recently had a significant investment by a major public bank into what we're doing, and they're going to be part of what we're going to be launching here fairly soon. So we've got great backing, and we got great backing from someone who's very excited about what we have and feel it's going to be a big breakthrough. And as a result, we expect not only to be here, but take a prominent position in the industry, and really help the operators in a space that they need it. Help them not only build their brand, but to engage their customers, drive more loyalty, and increase both their top and bottom line on their business.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing the news here. That's really, I love when we're able to break some news. I mean, are there any other details that you can provide in terms of how it might work? I mean, before the announcement, or is it just, it's going to be a credit option and it's going to be unlike anything else in the industry?
Yeah, I'll just give you more color on Mosaic, and that'll be self-explanatory. So, as I kind of mentioned before, David, if you're buying your coffee, you may be using Starbucks or Dunkin', you're going to use their platform. And we've built a platform that enables any dispensary operator, a dispensary or MSO, to have their own branded Starbucks experience. So their own app, their own online menu, works in the store as a kiosk, their loyalty points that they can customize the way they want, how many tiers, et cetera. Their own marketing, ability to push out marketing and offers and specials by email, by push, just like you would in other industries or with Starbucks. And the ability to have, a wallet built in where you can download funds by typical methods and use those funds to purchase product, and all brought together in a seamless way. Starbucks calls it the flywheel effect. The combination of being able to order, loyalty, and payment in a seamless experience built for the mobile, because in our case, 88.8% of the consumers with our dispensaries are on their phone. Makes it real easy for them. That's going to be the experience. And we're really rounding it out with our new announcements and some more capabilities coming here soon. We do all that stuff already, except adding credit and some other capabilities to that equation.
So, is there really 12% of customers that aren't on their phone?
There are, I think. It might be developers checking it out, but that's a good question.
Yeah,
I can tell you from the data we have, that's what I see. 12% are are on the desktop, and there's like 0.5% that are on their gaming module.
Okay.
See that shopping through their gaming device.
Okay, I was just curious. I was like, wherever that 12% is, they're healthier mentally. No.
But it's almost 9 out of 10 still, right? Isn't it? So it's a lot. And I would contend, especially in the cannabis space, most of the e-commerce experiences out there are built for the desktop, not the mobile, where we've taken really a concerted effort to design everything so it works really well on the mobile. Whether you're on a browser or you download our app, it works well on the mobile. So when you're scrolling, you can do everything with your thumb. It's beautiful and it's easy to navigate and not too complex. That's what Mosaic gives, and therefore, that's what we think is effective.
Does it work just as well with the browser on your phone as the app? Because I sometimes feel like browsers are built intentionally a little bit clunkier to try and entice you to get the app.
Yep. No, I think the app makes it a bit easier to do some things you can't otherwise. First on the browser, I don't believe you might get the tabs on the app. I'm not sure about that. And there are different types of browsers, progressive web architecture that you can use that make it more app-like as a look and feel. But when you do it as an app on the phone, now you can push notifications too, which you typically can't do with a browser. So you get some of those app capabilities that you can leverage as a dispensary in your marketing.
When it comes to those push notifications, what kind of metrics are good in terms of engagement when it comes to an open or a click on something that you sent through one of those pushes?
Well, the first thing with mobile, or when you're talking about an app, is how many people download and use the app versus the browser.
Right.
And I'll tell you from our, we have dispensaries, and a good number right now is 35%, somewhere between 30 and 40%, which certainly some of our customers see. And that's when they're promoting the app and getting people to download it, uh, because you have to first do that and have them use the app to be able to push the notification to them. Um, and then in terms of open rate, the nice thing about push notifications versus text, and text is a bit of a gray area in cannabis industry, is that you can push notifications with whatever words and images that you want, so you can get through. The open rates, I believe, I'm not the expert in it, but somewhere 75% or greater is good,
Okay.
and something that I think that our customers see.
Why is text a gray area again?
Well, because it's not federally legal cannabis, and therefore the major carriers, AT&T and T and mobile, the mobile carriers, um, don't allow it.
Mm.
So if they know you're texting cannabis, one, they'll stop it, and they'll stop your account, and two, they can fine you.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah,
not to say
that's
people
certainly
text.
gray.
I mean, you can go look it up in their, guidelines, and you can see that. Now you can get around it, or try to get around it, and can successfully, by not using certain words and certainly images. And there's things you can do so the carrier doesn't know that you're texting cannabis product, but they don't want you to. And it's because they're like, big banks, JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, aren't getting into cannabis because of the federal situation. And the big carriers, T-Mobile and Verizon and the sort, are not, for the same reason.
Well, and I just hear you got to be careful when you're dancing around that gray area, because you never know what keyword is going to set it off, and then you are blacklisted, man.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many of those minds in this industry, aren't there? I
Yeah.
mean, so you can make your choices where you want to sit in the gray area and where you don't. And in our position, we've decided, go with push. I mean, you can
Yeah.
email on our platform, you can push as much as you want. The push is no problem. You can push whatever you want. It gets right to the phone. Obviously, you just need someone to download the app so you can be able to push that notification. And by the way, it's free. Text messaging is also very expensive. You're paying a lot of money to send a message out there that is a bit cryptic, because you can't be sending overtly the information. So you see it, and you might have to click a link to then go see the actual message, which isn't ideal for the stats that you're looking for.
Well, and so it's my understanding that with platforms like these, you see higher customer retention, you see higher cart sizes, you see more customer or product loyalty. Are those all things that people are looking at?
We certainly are, and I think dispensaries are looking for it. When they're not trying to do everything else they need to do, and with their very little resource that they have. But yeah, we see average order values higher when you're using, obviously, online orders, or when you're using mobile, in fact, as well. We see loyalty and engagement improve, certainly when you have customers on your loyalty program and you're able to effectively send out messaging to them. In our case, our platform also allows you to be very targeted and personalized. So you can send different offers, specials, or messages to different groups of people based upon their buying behavior or their profile. So where most dispensaries just blast the same discount to everybody, and essentially give away some margin when you might not have to, our Mosaic platform, again, like what Starbucks does, enables you to say, I'm going to send this offer, a new drop, a product, to my tier 2 and tier 3 of loyalty. Or I might want to send these edibles, which I have plenty in stock, and I want to kind of move out to those that bought twice on average a month versus someone who hasn't bought anything yet. You kind of reward them and really target those offers. So when you start to do those things, you see loyalty, obviously increase, and then you also, in a very competitive landscape, keep customers with you versus going to the marketplaces or going to the shop nearby.
No, all of that sounds great in theory, but is it easy in practice to kind of slice and dice the data and target people that, based on buying preferences, purchase size, other demographic information?
So that's a great question, David, and I'm going to answer it in two or three parts because it's changing, and it's getting very exciting from a technology perspective. So the first point I'll make is data is the key in having the data. And one of the advantages we have is Mosaic because we do the e-commerce or the shopping portion, and we capture all those clicks online, but we also do the marketing, so we know offers and what people are responding to there and the payments. We have data across the field that the user behavior that we can use and leverage to start to build profiles and understand those users. Whereas even if you look outside the cannabis, Shopify, they're a 150 billion revenue company, 2 billion, no, 150 billion, valuation company with 2 billion revenue, but they just do e-com. So they don't do the CRM and loyalty. Their partners do that. So they don't have the full view that we might have of that user journey. So first is having the data. And then second, today, there are other platforms as well as ours that you can go and then now you can create groups and segment users and you can think of offers and you can push them out. But there's a bit of training, there's been know-how, and there's probably more art than science too. And what's the right offer to send out? And that's all work. And that's going to take someone hours to do on a weekly basis, but it's well worth it because with those tools, you can now target offers, you can send them out. But now to the exciting part, David, in my mind, is AI. And AI is changing things in the technology space and I think in everywhere very quickly. But we are working on, I know we're not the only one, but we're working and anxious to get out Q1 AI-driven marketing. So imagine this. Imagine you're a dispensary owner where before, if you even had the tools and you trained yourself and had time to do that, you were spending time creating those segments and those offers and sending them out and trying to get some reports and figure out what they mean. The AI becomes very smart and it's doing everything for you automatically. So you walk into Mosaic, it's going to tell you or it's going to send you a message, hey, here are the top 10 promotions that you should run. And by the way, promotion one will give you 50,000 increased revenue. Promotion two will give you 48,000, et cetera, et cetera. You want to engage them? Yes. Or you can engage in the platform and say, hey, I'm thinking about running a promotion for females over 25 that purchase edibles. What promotion should I, I'm thinking about running a promotion on that because I got a lot of inventory with Camino. What do you suggest? And then they'll come back and say, actually, if you did that, this is what we would expect and predict you'd get. And we would actually recommend you tweak it and do the following. So it's going to be more conversant and it's going to be incredibly smart. And then if we do it right, it's going to leverage all the data, what's being purchased in the store, what's been purchased online, eventually in the future, what's been purchased elsewhere, and be able to really know, what a user has done, compare that with others, and, be able to get promotions on a personal level, targeted area that this person's getting one set of promotions, another person's getting different ones, and we know they're going to work. And then the
So,
beauty of it all is then at the end, you have all this data available and you'll be able to get reports on how those promotions worked and what they generated.
so as soon as Q1 next year, admins will be able to have a conversation with this platform and basically say like, hey, we need to move product X. How do you recommend we do it? Or will the engine already know based on shelf life and SKUs what needs to go and then prioritize that product as a recommendation?
Yes, both is what we plan to have in Q1 of next year. And clearly we'll have a version that does a lot of that, but over time we'll enhance it for Q2. It'll be even more robust as we get it out there and improve it and enhance it. But yes, that's exactly where Mosaic's headed, and I'm sure others are trying to get there. It's also what you see others, outside. OpenAI had a big announcement 2 weeks ago, David, where they talked about agentic commerce, where they're enabling an AI, where you have a chat with AI, and now you can have a conversation of what kind of product you might want and buy, and it's going to come find the stores out there in the world of the digital world, negotiate your deal or find the best deal, and then bring it to you and say, do you want to make the purchase? So you're not even going through menus. So it's very conversant, very, the agentic commerce is changing the game in many ways. So we're looking to bring that into our user experience for our customers in 2026.
Do you ever have to be careful with the use of the term AI and attaching it to your product? Because if you attach it to your product, does it already set expectations that it should be able to do everything in your user's wildest imagination, and then they get disappointed when it can't do everything for them?
Um, if you're not delivering real value, I'm sure that's going to be a letdown or a
Hmm.
struggle. In our case, we're confident that we're going to deliver game-changing or significant value, less costs, automate a lot of that process and do it in a much smarter way. So I have no problem, putting AI in this. And because we are using real AI to do it, that's what we're working on right now. And it's going to be significantly different. So I guess you have a good point. You want to make sure you're not just throwing AI on there and you're tweaking, like making the search a little bit smarter, but not really delivering something that's substantially different and value add.
Well, I just mean it as a truly revolutionary technology, right? And so as a result, like you have everyone's on a different plane in terms of their understanding of what it is and should be and could be. And so, I mean, we've run into this at times too in the industry where you say that you have an AI capability and they're like, oh, well, I was expecting it to basically teach me how to live the next 80 years of my life so I can live forever. And you're like, well, I think that's not what was in the scope of the product.
Yeah. Yep. And I see that. Yeah, you see that everywhere where people are just throwing AI on a product and it's not really AI in the sense that we're all talking about now with OpenAI or ChatGPT or DeepSeek and the true auto learning systems that are out there. But they're just throwing AI on it because it's a good marketing term. Um, yeah, I guess you have to be careful about that. That's something you go back to what we talked about earlier. We want to make sure we get this right and really bring together, transformative improvements when we do. So in our case, I think it's going to live up to, the AI word. We will see, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. A lot of others have just thrown it on top of their product, thinking it will help sell something.
No, and I apologize. I wish I would have pre-prepared an example or something better than just off the top of my head. That was maybe a C minus at best. But thank you for running with it. I appreciate it.
No, no, my pleasure. AI stuff is fascinating. I mean, it's moving so quickly, and we all have to learn how to use it, I think, and we have to get our teams using it in whatever business we are, because we don't, we'll get left behind.
Mhm.
And then, the potential of how it's going to reshape everything we do in life fairly soon is thought provoking.
Well, and I feel like anyone that reports to anybody else in any industry right now has had that edict, right? We need AI. Go get it. And you're just like, all right. And everyone in every industry is trying to figure out what that means for their business. And it's a wild time right now.
Yeah, and it's a word AI. I don't think most people really understand what AI is doing and what where it's going and what the impact is. And at best, most people know what ChatGPT is or a different version of that and what it can do in very simple cases.
Yeah.
And they're applying that through other things. So, um, yeah, I think it's this word that gets thrown out and overused, but without true context and understanding of what's happening with it.
Well, and you had mentioned about how some of these problems you're going to solve, in your mind, what are some of the most critical challenges that cannabis operators are facing right now? And how are you looking to help address these specific challenges?
Yeah, so I'll give you a different challenge that I don't hear too often, but I think it's an opportunity and a challenge for the industry because if you look at the landscape, it's very competitive. All these licenses get thrown out in certain states. So you've got dispensaries on top of dispensaries in some cases, um, competing against the illicit market, which is a lot less expensive. And the dispensaries have all this overhead. They've got the regulation and cost, and they've got 280E, as we talked about before. With all that said, for the most part, they're all going after the same customer, which is the typical cannabis user, someone who knows cannabis, someone who knows what they pretty much want, and is going to find a dispensary and come in, either physically or maybe through SEO or something, right? Digitally. and they're all kind of going after that customer, which is great. And then they're trying to engage that customer, keep them loyal. But now you're talking about a subset of a subset because you got the huge illicit market, and then you've got that subset of people who want to buy legally and know cannabis. But you have a lot of other users that don't quite understand it. They're new users. So here's the opportunity and problem. The problem is I don't think the market is truly targeting not the two different people. The illicit users that haven't changed to legal because maybe they've got a relationship. It's easier to buy from someone they always have, and it's much it's very cost effective. It's much less cost. How do you really bring them into the fold? Because in many cases, that's still 50 to 70% of the usage in the market. If it's a $40 billion market or 35 billion today, it's a $100 billion market in the US, you're talking about 60% or so of users that are illicit. Some states aren't legal, but still in the legal states. And then there's this other population, new users, that are intrigued by it, that want to use it to help with their sleep, or maybe it's a good replacement over alcohol, which has a lot more harm to your body than cannabis, and cannabis can, obviously have many medical benefits as well. But by and large, people don't understand, cannabis. It's very complex for someone who really hasn't, been involved in the past. So how do we help the industry? How do we help, in my case, dispensaries attract those people? And in a small way, I think, is give them the tools that they're comfortable with. So, and that's giving them good digital experience so that, that the new user that wants to test cannabis to see if it helps them sleep, or maybe they want to change what they drink, or someone in the illicit market wants to have more options and more choice, or maybe concerned about the quality, or fentanyl being involved in buying it on the street. How do you bring them in? Well, just make it easier for them. Give them tools, an app, online, whatever, to start to look at product, check it out, and then eventually buy it. And that's where we think that more of a modern experience can really help the industry expand the pie versus fight for the same, portion of the existing pie. Does
No,
that make sense?
no, that does make sense to me. Like, I mean, it. I mean, throughout any sort of digital sales process, I guess I'm constantly amazed at how little it takes to lose a customer. Like any sort of hiccup, bug, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to do something else. And so I do understand that, like, it has to work. It has to work as expected. And, especially when we're talking about trying to gain business from somebody else, it truly has to be a better experience for them.
Absolutely. And in this industry, I think a lot of the experiences people have with technology or online shopping, or even loyalty is subpar. It's not what they're used to elsewhere. And it's often that they might run into experiences that aren't beautiful, that aren't simple, and therefore they may jump and go somewhere else. So yeah, that's one way we can help, is to give them better experiences, better tools. Not to mention our tool is easy to manage. It's all in one. So you're not managing two or three or four or five vendors and trying to bring all that data together and learning how to use each tool. You're trying to make it really easy to use so that the entire digital experience is in a single in a single platform. But you're right, you got to get it right, because if you don't get it right and it's not a good experience, it becomes a deterrent, or it becomes hurtful to your business versus something that should be an asset and valuable.
Well, another thing that happens when it comes to either switching software providers or buying a new technology platform is people think, the startup, the work to bring it online. What kind of ramp up are people looking at once they choose Mosaic as a partner, just to make sure they do get it right?
So our general ramp up is 1 to 2 weeks if you want to move it forward quickly. So it's not too difficult for us. We do fully brand the solution with your assets, your marketing assets, so colors, logos. So it's your look, it's your brand, it's your fuel. There's no mosaic on it either. And that'll take us a week once we have the information to do that right. It actually takes us shorter, but we like to plan a week, so we can manage that and others. Um, that's all assuming that we're already integrated to your point of sale. So we're integrated to 5 of the top 10 point of sale systems, the equipment in the store with the inventory and the pricing and what the bud tenders use to process orders. Well, we integrate into that so that we pull that information and push the orders in automatically. So it's very easy for the operator, the dispensary. But if we're integrated to that, then it's not too difficult for us to implement our service.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I just that makes a lot more sense in terms of being able to pull that information from the point of sale system. Then you're not, starting at, ground zero in terms of loading everything in.
Yes, and and that on its own, some are better integrated than others. So our ability, we try to integrate as deeply as we can, so everything syncs up, and that you're not duplicating efforts in one system and another system. For example, entering discounts in both the point of sale and e-commerce. In our case, in all cases, it syncs up. So that's a key component of making sure it works well. But because we do that pre-work, it's fairly easy for us to bring another customer that's already on one of those platforms on board.
Do you have any insight into the equipment side of the business? How can operators leverage equipment automation and integrated systems to potentially reduce operation costs?
Well, I can tell you from our perspective, reducing operational costs, I kind of mentioned that already, it's with Mosaic, it's a single platform across, multiple technologies. So, that reduces a lot of overhead. You're not managing five or four or three platforms. You're not training on them, and we try to make it really easy. So that's the first thing that we at least do. We don't rely on any hardware, so you can leverage iPads and tablets for your kiosk or kiosk machines, and we do integrate into the systems we need to, primarily at point of sale and some others. So we simplify that process. Yeah, I don't know, Dave. I can give you much more insight
No,
into
that's
the
fair.
systems or what they could do better.
Okay. No, that makes sense. You know, right now in the industry, there's a big push for sustainability. Is there anything that helps an operator become more sustainable using the Mosaic platform? And do cannabis operators have any incentive to be sustainable right now when it's kind of very tight margins and awfully cutthroat?
I think most of them are in survival mode,
Yeah.
as you said, and they need to find out, first how you survive and then how you succeed. So there's a lot of focus there. That's one of the challenges we have is that even if it's fairly simple to make a change, it's hard for someone to do because they've got so many other activities they need to manage. And if you're not a big MSO, a big operator, you're the owner and you're probably doing the books, you're probably managing the marketing, you're managing the systems in many cases, or you don't have too many people managing the different aspects of the business. So, yeah, it's nice to maybe do some of the other niceties that you're talking about, but I think it's really hard, and I'm not seeing too many out there being able to spend too much time on it yet. It'd be good to get the industry in a place where people can certainly start to expand their focus in other areas. But it's a grind. I mean, it's
Yeah.
tough for a lot of the operators out there, so competitive. And again, 280E and the government is not helping at all,
I mean,
right?
speaking of that, do you think rescheduling is ever going to happen?
Yes, it's a matter of how soon.
Okay.
Federal legalization is going to happen. I don't see how that doesn't happen, but who knows if it's a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, the current administration, we'll see. Obviously, they said rescheduling, but obviously we haven't heard much since then. Um, I think it has to because if you look at the polling of the general population, it's already in favor of, rescheduling or certainly legalization, and it's only moving in that direction more and more. I do think that education, that the sordid history around cannabis, as we all know, crazy, and why it kind of got in this situation. The more and more people learn about what cannabis really is and what it does, and a lot of good it can deliver, and maybe a little bit of bad if it's misused, but in most cases, so much better than what's out there, and very helpful in many medical ways. That let's go back to AI. I think AI is going to not just in cannabis, but throughout the medical field, really get involved, really help us understand in much better detail what the implications, what how things affect people, and help us understand where cannabis is helpful and what it can do. And and then the public will become more educated. So, they're it's going to build. It's just building so slowly than people expected, and I can't predict that it's going to accelerate really quickly because our history over the last 10 years, 5 years, um, is slow. But I think the knowledge is the key, and that's where AI will accelerate that curve a little bit more as we start to learn more and more about the benefits and the impacts and the comparisons of cannabis versus addictive drugs, opioids, or alcohol and other things.
Well, and that brings up another point that I wanted to ask you about. A couple weeks ago, you had posted that certain aspects of AI are downright terrifying. And I was wondering if you could run us through, a couple of those aspects that you think could be downright terrifying to some. And, and how that might relate to cannabis operators.
Sure. I'll preface it with the fact that, interesting you saw that, the fact that I'm an enthusiast about AI. I'm excited about it. And I just love researching it and have been doing some presentations on it. But that being said, yeah, let me give you some examples, what makes it terrifying. Um, my understanding and really listening to the experts, there's no doubt that it's going to remove and end a lot of jobs. It's going to create some more, but it's terrifying the fact that it may completely change the job market, and it's going to happen too quickly, and most jobs are going to go away. And I could challenge you, and we can go in this back and forth in a little bit if you want, but give me a job, and even doctors, that's going to be replaced by AI, and the question is how quickly, and the experts suggest very quickly. So when you start to think that maybe 90% of the jobs will be kind of removed because of AI, and some jobs will be created, but not the same number, that's terrifying. And then you can step it forward, and even Elon Musk predicts, there's a reasonable probability that the human species will be replaced by AI, not in 100 years, but
Yeah.
in the
No, these are
relatively near
all
future.
no, these are all legitimate fears that I have myself, or I enjoy. I do believe it could be as impactful if left unchecked. And there are some people in the office that are just like, that's not going to happen. I'm like, I don't know. We've let an awful lot of things happen before that weren't supposed to happen. And because I do agree with you, I do think it's going to have a much bigger impact in terms of replacing jobs. I do think it's going to create this really weird crossroads, right? Where quality of life and personal care will increase potentially to the highest it's ever been, just in terms of what you can achieve. But then it's also like, so what's the new standard as to what we're living for? Or towards, if you're not driven by necessarily a career path,
Yeah, and we don't know, but crazy stuff's happening. Neuralink is already implanting computing capability into the brain to help with disabilities today, but with the idea of supplementing our brain so we're a lot smarter. And then you can get into the division of different kind of grades of society, where you have elites that may be 1,000 times smarter than others. What does that all mean? And not to mention, what you bring up. It's all real. It really is. If you dig into it, and I'll just throw out there one of my favorites, Moonshots podcast by Peter Diamandis. He and a few others, Peter Blondin and others who are experts, like Peter's from MIT. They're experts in AI. They're experts in not just AI, but technology and the social impacts. They talk about this on a weekly podcast, and they go into some depth about it. And when you really start to hear the folks that probably know what they're talking about and give real examples, you start to understand this is a lot more real, and these things are probably going to happen. So Moonshots is a good one if anybody's intrigued by it and wants to start listening to a podcast. I recommend that highly.
Yeah. I'm all about futurism and futuristic tech. I will say, we also have a medical design and development publication that has been following Neuralink pretty closely as well.
Yeah.
But man, if you have ever worked with bringing any digital product online, even your phone, you realize that it doesn't happen without at least one bug. And that's the only thing for me. I'm just like, I understand when you're bringing like mobility and a better quality of life to medical patients, that's truly revolutionary. But when people are just talking about, being able to search with just using, just tapping into their brain, I don't know if I'm willing to make that exchange yet. For something that all of a sudden I get the blue screen of death in my mind and it's over,
I don't like it. That's why it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. But you dig deeper. I'm telling you, you dig deeper and really listen to the folks that know what's happening. It becomes apparent. It's real, and it's going to happen faster than people think. And people who say AI this or that haven't done that research. I don't think it's terrifying. I'd put a pause button if I could, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I'm still fascinated by it.
No, I am as well. And I do I like to challenge sort of this like accepted blissful ignorance of like, it'll all be fine. It'll all be fine. And I'm just like, there are going to be humanoid robots working everywhere, and they're going to be doing it autonomously. And we're pretty much going to be replaced in every industry, but no bigs. Let's not worry about it.
Yeah, Musk again is got a robotics company, and he said 1 billion robots by 2030, I think. I mean,
yeah,
more. It's mind-boggling. And here's the difference for everybody.
Okay.
The difference is that before computing, we kind of told a computer what to do, and more processing, smarter people, it could do great things. Now it's actually self-learning. So now they've taught computers to actually learn on their own, and that's where they're learning how to learn, almost like our brain, and with more and more processing being thrown at it, and literally hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars right now at processing, and that when its ability to continue to learn on its own is going to be 1,000, 1,000,000 times smarter than the human brain. We just can't even talk to it anymore. I mean, it's like an ant talking to a human. You can't have that conversation because they're just in different worlds.
Okay. Well, before I've lost everybody in the cannabis audience, although I feel like I could talk about this all day, at least some sort of rudimentary level. Another topic that I saw on your website that I wanted to bring up briefly was there's this topic of how Google's AI shopping updates are going to be impacting dispensaries. Can you speak to that topic at all as to some of the changes that Google has made? And I mean, was that what you were talking about earlier, just in terms about what you want to buy and then negotiating a price everywhere? Is that something that's coming to cannabis?
Yes. First of all, what Google, or I should say,
Alphabet?
Well, Alphabet or OpenAI and these AI platforms are doing, Perplexity, is to build what's called agentic commerce. And that is what we talked about before, being able to have a conversation and talk about, in this case, maybe, cannabis and, what kind of effects you might want to have and what would be the best product. And then it can bring recommendations to, and then based upon those recommendations, be able to make those purchases happen. Now, let me hit pause. Cannabis space, you obviously can't do that in the US because of the federal situation, but that's happening today and going to happen really quickly outside of the US cannabis market. Canada's legal federally, so that's going to be a little bit different. So that'll be a precursor to what's coming into the cannabis space as well. So in the not too distant future, they will have perfected that, what's called conversant chat buying process, one click. And yeah, you're gonna be able to have conversations and figure out what's best for you, and it will find the cannabis product for you. And when it opens up in the US market, they'll be able to do that. So that's coming in that sense in the future. What we're trying to do at Mosaic is try to incorporate that into the menus that we currently have, and then tie that into the open platforms. The risk is the Amazons of the world and the Shopifys, they could get bypassed. So I'm sure they're working on their own stuff, but the idea of going into Google Chat or AI, they now have the AI chat, talking to it and getting a product there versus going to Amazon to find a product, that's the way people will probably shop in the future. People suggest.
Okay. Well, Jack, it's been incredible talking to you. And I do apologize. I think this is the second week in a row that I've talked about humanoid robots. So for the listeners, I apologize. We'll rein it in. But Jack, before we get out of here this week, is there anything else that you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience knows about yourself, your work at Mosaic, or, if anything, where they could find more information?
Sure. First, you can find more information at mosaic.green, not .com, mosaic.green. Or you can email me, jack.blaeser. It's Blaeser at mosaic.green. And yeah, we're at the forefront of digital commerce. Mosaic provides dispensaries their own Starbucks-like branded experience, including your online menu and your app and loyalty points, all customized for you, and payments. So if that is of interest, reach out. We'll be happy to show you what we're doing for our clients and compare it with what you currently have, and see if we can help you. If it's something else, reach out still, and we'd love to help you in any way that we can. We want to really help this industry be successful. Again, we know that it's a tough industry and a lot of challenges right now for folks with their hands tied behind their back with the government situation. So where we can help, we're happy to jump in.
One other question, Jack. I always like to, because especially when people jump into the industry and it's maybe not always as they expected and they evolve through it over the years, are you happy that 10 years ago you made that initial investment and kind of dove into the industry? Or, once you got into it, you're like, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Yeah. So the investment I made didn't do well by me to date because, the market shifted on everybody. But I'm really happy I got into the industry. And I'll tell you the main reason. It's the people and the culture. So as I said at the beginning, I've been in various industries, telecom, insurance, payments, app dev, and there's no industry like this industry. The people are different. It's for the most part very helpful. I think it's because we're all have very, there's significant challenges for most operators. So for the most part, it's less cutthroat and really they are trying to help each other across the board. It's just a different group of people that are more passionate about what they do in the industry and the product, the plant, than others are in the other industries. So yeah, it's the culture that you have in this industry that's special. So I'm glad I've gotten to know it. I think we are on a really interesting mission to help dispensaries in a way that I think can be very powerful with what Mosaic does. Really excited about what we've developed and what we're doing for our customers. So I want to give that to more and more. So despite what I may have lost in the investment, I'm really happy to be in it, and not easy for everybody I know, but excited to see what we can do together and making it a better future for more and more people.
Well, Jack, thank you again for taking the time. I really do appreciate it. And as more news rolls out in November, please stay in touch so we can share it with our audience.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. Thanks, David. Thank you for the time. I enjoyed it.
Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. For Jack Blaeser, founder and CEO of Mosaic, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.